Extraordinary figures released yesterday showing 250 people a week are dying needlessly because of long waiting times in A&E. That's according to a new report from the Royal College of Emergency Medicine. Today, it's emerged that people are waiting up to a month to see their GP. Well, joining me now to discuss this is medical commentator and GP at Same Day Doctor is Dr Laurence Gerlis. Good afternoon to you, Laurence.
Hi, Julia.
I mean, these figures are absolutely shocking on both counts, aren't they? Just initially getting into your GP or in an emergency, getting the care you need. People are dying. We know that. This is, the experts are saying this. What do we do about it?
Well, it's tragic, and I try to advise people to keep away from A&E. Part of me is relieved about these figures because, as you know, we've been running at excess deaths since the pandemic. Every week, about 500 to 1,000 people are dying, more than should be compared with the average. And no one's come up with an answer to that. Sir Chris Whitty, who's a sensible chap, said it may be that doctors aren't prescribing statins. I never believed that. At least we now have a partial explanation that some of them are dying because they're not getting timely treatment in A&E. So we know that. As for the rest of them, we're not sure. I think the anti-vax conspiracists like to blame vaccines. It's post-COVID. It's access to general practice. It's all not working. As you say, waiting a month to get in to see a GP. Look, it's Tuesday today. I've been working all weekend. My local GP practice, who I tried to contact on Thursday, has been closed all weekend. That's their contract. That they're not contracted to be open bank holidays and weekends.
But
so where do people
health
go?
is 24/7, 365, and that's issue. But we even found that even in hospitals, don't we, where people, they'll go in. If you go in on a Friday, your chances of surviving are lower because you can't get the tests you need, and therefore not the treatment. How do we change this though? Is this the same in other countries? Because for years and years, you've had this whole let's all worship at the feet of the NHS, and it's the sacred cow. You can't criticise it, and we're told that we've got the best, the envy of the world. Look, the stats are really clear. Our health service is far from being the envy of the world. It's something of a laughingstock. Eastern Europe, Western Europe, most other Western nations, bar America, don't have any system like this, and they still get their healthcare. So do we need to start having a sensible debate and saying, it may not be the funding, because huge sums of money have gone in. It may be the system itself that is the problem.
Julia, I've been having this sensible debate with a lot of people for a lot of years, and I've come to the conclusion, this is slightly depressing, it's never going to change in this country. Never. The NHS is a state within a state with so many tribes, so many lobby groups, so many self-interests. It's impossible to change. And especially with what's going to happen after the next election, it's not going to change. And I know that's depressing. I agree with you. Of course, it should change. I just want to tell people there is no secret plan to privatise the NHS. A lot of people say, oh, well, the government's running it down so they can privatise it. That has never been the case. It's one of these scare stories that people like to bring up. Jeremy Corbyn at the last election saying, oh, we're going to sell the NHS to Donald Trump. Every election, someone threatens this. There's never been that plan. It's never going to happen.
But a lot of people are now waking up in terms of satisfaction with the NHS and understanding that actually, it's not delivering. And it's not delivering for a huge sum of money that's being spent on it. For some reason, we seem to hire more, bureaucrats than we hire more doctors and radiologists and the like. Again, people who come from Eastern Europe, they go back to Eastern Europe to get treatment and then come back here. That should be a source of national humiliation for us.
Well, everything is humiliating. But if you ask people what the answer is, no one says, I want to pay to see a doctor, or I want to pay to take out insurance. No one says that. They say we need to put more money in, but I'm not paying more tax. Other people should.
But again, people say it's free. It's not free. We're paying for it. Laurence Gerlis, thank you very much indeed. Tom Slater's still with me. Look, I'm NHS GP's daughter. I don't want anyone to not go to the doctor because they can't afford to. But the NHS has expanded so much and the cost so much. But we spend a fortune. We have huge sums of money going into the NHS. So what's going wrong?
I think what's going wrong is the absence of that debate and the ridiculous scare stories that take place. When people say in opinion polls how much they appreciate the NHS, That's a reflection of the principle of free at the point of use. People are
or they like their own personal GP.
They like their own personal GP. They've had good experiences. It is not a reflection of, I really love this bureaucratic, centralised, wasteful structure that uses fax machines so much.
But you would think there'd be less bureaucracy because you haven't got all the private, you know, well, there's the social security system, the sort of that you've got in other European countries. You'd think that it would be more efficient, but apparently not.
No, absolutely not. And there's a reason that no one has looked to emulate the way in which we do this. And what's depressing at the moment is that both parties have a very clear vested interest in not rocking the boat too much. Labour, because of its connection with the unions, and the Tories, because they're terrified of looking like they're going after the NHS.
But meanwhile, of course, all the people who are in charge all can get private healthcare because they can afford it, so they can walk their way out of the system. Tom Slater, pleasure to have had your company all today. Thank you very much indeed.